the French are wanting to come back to the warpath. And if the 100 Years' War and World War II and World War I are any lessons, it's that the French aren't really the best fighters. France's army faces deterrence tests against Putin's Russia. In May, French soldiers will participate in a large-scale military exercise in Romania, dubbed Dacian Spring 2025, that will assess their ability to swiftly move to NATO's eastern flank. So the French want to see how fast can our soldiers move in the case of a war with the Ruskies. We used to play war. Now there's a designated enemy, and we train with people with whom we'd actually go to war. The head of the Army's Land Command for Europe, General Bertrand Tijoux, told reporters on Friday. In the past few years, France's land forces have started a, quote, profound transformation, unquote, to be ready for a high-intensity conflict similar to the war in Ukraine. So imagine French soldiers doing trench warfare like they did back in World War I. The French army also has new marching orders from NATO. By 2027, it should be able to deploy a war-ready division in 30 days, including ammunition and supplies. That year, 2027, that is a seriously scary year. I am actually terrified of that year. I think by 2027, we're going to be seeing countries having military forces that are war capable, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be scary. If that does indeed come to fruition, I think it's going to be a very odious year. Because a lot of countries have said the same thing, that by 2027, our military forces will be ready. You know, the Chinese have said something similar. The Japanese have something similar. The Turks have said something similar. The Hungarians have talked about this, that by the year 2027 or around that year, they're going to be war capable. The key challenge will be to get Romania in such a short period. The key challenge will be to get to Romania in such a short period of time. There is still no military Schengen, and we need to decisively improve military mobility in Europe. So they want to make a military Schengen zone within Europe so that various European armies can move within the EU without any sort of hindrance. So there's that, and it's very scary. But you see, you know, the French have talked about actually sending troops into Ukraine. The French really want to show that they're militarily capable. And you have the whole thing with Poland and Lithuania. We'll get into that in a little bit here. Poland and Lithuania, how the Germans have slowly been sending troops into Lithuania. They want to eventually have 5,000 soldiers in that country. And it's very interesting. Poland is trying to be the most powerful military in Europe. I think if you ask me, the country in Europe that is the most powerful officially on paper is France, if I had to make a guess, because the French are a nuclear power, but also Great Britain is a nuclear power. So Great Britain is also pretty robust because of that. But France has a pretty big military from what I understand, and they have nuclear weapons. The French want to show that they're militarily capable. But the Germans are rising up. And I've talked about this many times. I've been talking about this since 2016. The Germans want to show that they're militarily capable. And they want to put soldiers in Lithuania. And what borders with Lithuania? We could say Poland, yes, but Russia also borders with Lithuania because of Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a province of Russia that does not share a contiguous border with Russia, but nonetheless it is a part of Russia. It's Russia. Like Alaska doesn't really share it doesn't share at all a contiguous border with the United States, but nonetheless Alaska is one of the 50 American states. So the same thing with Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad borders with Lithuania, and a number of years ago, we're talking back in 2022 or so, the Lithuanians were really messing with Kaliningrad. They were not allowing certain products to be shipped into Kaliningrad. And the Russians, I think, had to transport goods. They had to transport goods through another way, if I remember correctly. But nonetheless, the point is that Russia told Lithuania, if you don't stop this, there's going to be serious consequences for you, Lithuania. You're going to have a lot of problems. So I think Kaliningrad will be a huge point of leverage that's going to be used against the Russians. Can we take Kaliningrad? Can Germany take Kaliningrad away from Russia? I think that's going to be a big part of the future global conflict, the future conflict within Europe, especially. in this case, Europe. So I think it's going to be a big issue, Kaliningrad. And I suspect what the Poles and what the Lithuanians are doing is they're trying to bait the Russians into a war. Because Russia has said numerous times, listen, we are not interested in fighting Lithuania. We're not interested in invading the Baltic states. We are not interested in invading NATO. So I think what NATO is trying to do is similar to what they did to the Soviets in Afghanistan. They armed all these jihadis in Afghanistan, and they did it with the deliberate intent of baiting the Russians to invade Afghanistan so that the Mujahideen, armed by the U.S., could slaughter enough Soviet soldiers to devastate the Russians. This was the whole intention, and it worked. The death of the Soviet Union was seen in Afghanistan. It was finished off in East Germany, but it was really, the death really began in Afghanistan. So I think the Westerners are doing a similar tactic here. They're saying, okay, we're going to put all these German troops in Lithuania. Poland is talking about having the ability to send missiles into Russia. You have the Lithuanians at one point actually blocking certain goods from entering Kaliningrad. I think all of these things have just been baits to try to get the Russians to do something. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to get worse with it. I think in the future they're going to get more intense with trying to bait the Russians into invading Lithuania or invading the Baltic states so that they can tell the world, look at Russia. Oh my God. Oh, they're awful. They're invading NATO. And they're going to do that with the hopes of pulling Russia into a major, major conflict with European countries like Germany, like France, like Poland, because they have this idea in their heads that Russia will invade NATO, and they want to make that happen. I think they're pissed that Russia hasn't invaded NATO yet. They're pissed that Russia has not invaded the European Union yet, so they want to make that happen. But they want to goad the Russians into that. That's what I think. Baltoids are nothing but a chihuahua to us. When their NATO shield comes off, we'll serve them their Arctic cold justice. So here it is. Polish general warns of immediate strike on St. Petersburg if Russia attacks NATO. In the event of an attack by Russia on Poland or the Baltic states, there will be an immediate response. Allies will strike directly at St. Petersburg, said Polish Chief of General Staff Raimund Andrzejczyk at the Defending Baltic Conference, according to Bild on October 11th. According to Andrzejczyk, if Russian forces cross the border into Lithuania, within the first minute, allies will target all of Russia's strategic assets within a 300-kilometer radius. We will strike directly at St. Petersburg, Andrzejczyk declared. To prepare for such a scenario, Poland is currently purchasing 800 missiles with a range of up to 900 kilometers, which will be deployed if Russia attacks. Ukraine is buying us a few years. If Russia wins in Ukraine, we'll have one Russian division in Lvov, one in Brest, and one in Grodno, Andrzejczyk added, emphasizing that an attack on the Baltic states of Poland would signal the beginning of total confrontation. Lithuanian Presidential National Security Advisor Kęstutis Budrys also believes that if Russia wins in Ukraine, its imperialist expansionism will be directed at Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. He warned that the risk of aggression toward the EU will increase if Belarus becomes a fully integrated part of the so-called Union state. So there you go. You got the Poles saying, Russia, if you do this, we're going to hit you. And if Russia wins, which Russia is going to win, for the most part, I think Russia's going to end up more of a winner than a loser here. I think there's going to be a concession. If there is a peace settlement between the Ukrainians and the Russians, Russia will gain territory, Ukrainian territory, definitely eastern Ukraine. So there's that. That has to be factored into this whole thing. Is Russia going to take over all of Ukraine? I don't know. But this Polish guy is saying that if Russia takes all of Ukraine, then we're going to have to do something. And he's saying if they step 1 inch into into Poland or the Baltic states, we're going to be hitting them. We're going to bomb St. Petersburg. So they're already making threatening situations, threatening statements. And the Russians have said, listen, we're not interested in the Baltic states. But like I said, they want to provoke. And I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to do something to provoke the Russians. That's my opinion. How long until the Germans and Russians divide up Poland again? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. Zelensky is going to run away from Ukraine. I thought this was really interesting. Ex-advisor of the Pentagon predicted the escape of Zelensky to the capital of one of the European countries. Now, people could say this is all bullshit or whatever, but there's some interesting facts that have been made on this article here. I'll show you some interesting facts on this article here. So it says here, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, will flee to London by order of Western Special Services after the defeat of the armed forces of Ukraine. This opinion was expressed by the ex-advisor to the Pentagon, Colonel Douglas Macgregor, on the YouTube channel Daniel Davis/Deep Dive. Zelensky is a reliable aide to the West. He will play a role until the CIA or MI6 orders him to get on a plane to London. He believes that the rest of his life, for the rest of his life, the Ukrainian leader will spend in luxury while Ukraine will be in ruins. The colonel called such a scenario a tragedy. And interesting, this is very interesting. It says here, in August, McGregor said that Zelensky plans to leave the country due to the success of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. The expert noted that the president of Ukraine has already transferred his billions to foreign accounts and bought real estate in Italy and the United States. So according to this guy, Zelensky has already transferred billions of dollars into a foreign account, or foreign accounts, I should say, and that he has already purchased real estate in Italy and the United States. So it looks like he's planning something. It says here that the ex-advisor of the Pentagon noted that even before this scenario, the leadership of the APU can carry out a coup d'etat and overthrow Zelensky. That's also a possibility. Now, remember, before Zelensky took power, he talked about making peace with the Russians, and he talked about making concessions. He actually was willing to give up or to allow the Donbass to become autonomous states, essentially allowing them to become satellite states for the Russians. And the Nazis in Ukraine were saying, Zelensky, if you do this, we're going to lynch mob you. They were saying that. So there's a lot of people in Ukraine who hate Zelensky. They say he's a traitorous Jew. And if there is a peace settlement in Ukraine, a peace settlement will not be agreed without some sort of concessions in favor of Russia. The Russians are going to say, listen, we lost a lot of soldiers fighting in Ukraine. We're not going to leave empty-handed. We're going to take territory. If you want peace, you're going to give us Eastern Ukraine. You're going to give us Donbass. And if they really want peace with Russia, they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to make concessions. And I think that that's going to happen. And if concessions are made, I think and Zelensky is still in Ukraine, he's going to have to run away, because then the Nazis are going to want to kill him.